What do you do?
Sing dog empty.
Oh my God, happy 50th birthday, yo. Wow. Oh my God, and I gotta say, as a doctor, I have always considered myself a physician extender. Because y'all are running this, you know what I mean? Welcome to my hood, to Vegas. Try not to get arrested. I know all the jail cells, I can tell you.
We worked at the federal level getting PAs into the CARE Act, which allows us to become waiver to prescribe Suboxone. This is huge.
Well, the AAPA is here, and they act like, because they are the professionals, and they act like they're designing the PA profession. Actually, the people that design the PA profession are the PA programs. When the PA profession started, there were 5 different programs, all of which had a little different model. Dick Smith, who really was about, the medics program was about more of a community focus, more of a primary care or whatever. He actually, having been a Peace Corps leader and a civil rights leader, was very interested in making sure that the community input was there. So he was at Medics for 3 years, and then he went on to create Medics International at the University of Hawaii and trained health workers all around the world. But the principles were the same, and we're still using them. I just used them recently to develop the dental therapy movement, which is happening in the United States.
I think we are all, an unspoken thing that is sadly what we should be talking about at this conference is the impact of the Congress action.
But if you even just think about clinical settings that I'm in, and I go and see people all the time, all around the world and whatever, I can see that if there were a PA and an NP for every doctor, things would work better. And I think patients would get good care, the cost would go down, and it would go much more with sort of the Toyota lean technology, the right person doing the right job at the right time at the right place, you know?
There's no regulation or registration for PAs yet. It's very much in the infancy. And there's a study looking at the outcomes from this pilot project, but it'll be probably not until the autumn before any of the...
This is such a U.S.-centric phenomena, the American model of the PA, that my experience has been that as I've traveled in the UK and in Ireland and other parts in Europe, I'm telling them that, at this point we have a 50-year experience with PAs. We talk about the fact that we have over 120,000 PAs in the workforce alone, just in the US. And that, virtually every medical center, reputable medical academic institution has PAs, and that there are PAs working in underserved areas. There are PAs working both in rural areas and remote and urban areas, and PAs part of the White House medical staff. That's the degree of sophistication and integration of the model that has occurred in 50 years. And oftentimes what I get back is, yeah, we know, but we're different. We have a different healthcare system. Yeah, but your patients still bleed red blood, they still need oxygen. They need somebody who can come in and listen to their complaint, sort their issues, do an appropriate physical exam, order the appropriate diagnostic studies and interpret them and try to get them cared for. That's what PAs can do.
Yeah, so I don't want us to get sidetracked, and this is the only thing we can talk about. I can also talk about New Zealand and Australia.
Yes, please.
Yeah. Okay.
The international issue has to do with actually the brain drain. For example, that places like Australia and New Zealand and a lot of other countries in the world have docs who come in from other countries where by coming there, they're potentially decimating the workforce back in their community. And so in the US, of course, I think a lot of people don't realize and it's because of how the data is managed, that about 40% of the doctors in our country are trained overseas, but they have to go through more training. And there are certain visa statuses that they have to work in rural areas and so forth. But there's some dysfunctional things about that too. So for example, in Australia, if you go in the outback communities, there's a lot of people that are from India or Pakistan or whatever. But to put them in a community of Aussies, and then they have their own dietary, needs and so forth, it's very hard for them to get the food they need. They don't have any culture, they're very lonely. It's not doing anybody necessarily a big favor. And in some ways it would make more sense to have PAs that were Australians that were trained there, and that will probably happen eventually.
So if you get health care in India, you must pay for it yourself, pretty much. Their amount of money they spend on the health care in the country is less than 3%. So, and there is no primary care and there is no rural.
So how do you not create structures that lead to brain drain? But then people say, well, we think PAs should be able to move around. And I think what I would see happening to increase the legitimacy of the profession is to perhaps to do regional things. So you could have a regional exam that was for sub-Saharan Africa. You could have one that was for Australia and New Zealand. You could have one that was for the European community, assuming it still exists as a community, whatever. And then eventually there will be some sort of licensing, and there will be some sort of certification. And about that time is when it might make more sense to think about, can people move around? But yet, it shouldn't just happen automatically, and it's not going to happen.
Information as far as class size and so forth, but I've got some significant language barriers there that I need to deal with.
One of the benefits of actually the PA model expanding internationally is that now that we have established presence in the Netherlands and in the UK, and Germany has got programs coming up and running. There's interest coming out of Switzerland, there's a degree of interest coming out of Belgium, and there's certainly interest in some aspects or some locales in Spain. So everybody's looking at how you address the shortage of doctors, the shortage of healthcare providers. But I think an end result of this in the course of the next 5 or 10 years is that the European-centric organization may have an exposure of locally trained European PAs rather than seeing this as an American thing. We could be learning from both sides, okay? There are things that they do very differently over there. For example, the patients over there, what was it? There was a guy who had in Ireland, one of the docs there had 3 liver transplants and never paid a cent.
How's that possible?
How's that possible? That's their health system. That's their their national health insurance provides that.
So what do you think of PA's office?
What do I think of PAs? Well, I got to say that every one of them has been very nice and respectful. They're very professional, they're very nice, and I appreciate what they do. I'd like to come back and do this again next year.
Would you trust PA with your life?
Absolutely, I would.
All right, thanks.